Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight with another podcast stroke video to help support you whether you are going for recruitment into the police or a specialist interview once you're in the police or your promotion board. Either way, this is so important, and it's something which I've been stressing now for 26 years. I've been coaching and supporting people in the police sector to succeed in promotion boards, specialist interviews, recruitment processes for 26 years now. I've been a serving police officer for 28 years, and I've been working in the sector now for 37 years. Oh my goodness, how old do I feel I am? So something that is consistent among all of you when I'm doing practice interview answers with you, either on a one-to-one or webinar, and check the links below to find out more about the details of those and how to join the Facebook groups for serving officers and potential recruits. It's almost 20,000 of you now in the Police Recruitment support group, which is just amazing. So the thing that's missing all the time, and I write this down, I mean, it's there, look, there, in my notes when I'm working with people, I write this down so many times, and it's the word how, because I use these notes to do a debrief. And invariably, it's because I'm asking a question, can you tell me about a time when? Even forward-facing questions, this is something that's missing. The how are you going to do something? Forward-facing questions are the ones where they'll ask you, tell me how in the future you will ensure that you always and consistently challenge inappropriate behaviour. Tell me in the future how you will manage difficult situations with members of the community who might not understand what the police are trying to achieve. Some really tough questions that forces are asking at the moment, both for serving officers at promotion boards and for those of you who want to join the police. So whether it's forward-facing or it's rear-facing, can you tell me about a time when? The thing that's missing so much is the how. So in the structure I advocate for answering a question, a rear-facing question, it is SAARLKU, which stands for describing the situation in detail. There's various aspects to that. And then describing your aim, what you're aiming to achieve. And then from there, you can move into the options. From there, we talk about what we did and how we did it. From there, we can move into the results. This isn't, I learnt the power of open questions. No, those are just statements of fact. What we're after is something specific to this situation, to this scenario, which you would do differently in the future. So that's the learning part. And then if it's for a final interview or if it's a promotion board, you can demonstrate your knowledge and understanding, which is where you talk about why this particular value or skill or whatever it is that you're talking about is important to the police, and how in the future you would demonstrate that skill or value and add difference, be that added value. And it's that last part that really lands well. But anyway, there's other guidance I provide. There's so much guidance I provide in my online courses about how to structure all of that into an answer that's going to be about 4 or 5 minutes long, which is about what it should be, to enable you to completely nail it. But the thing that's missing is the how. I mean, I don't know what it is. I think it might be because no one has actually been shown how to do good interview answers. And I've not developed everything I teach you and show you based on digging out books or Googling it. This is just based on experience over 26 years. I've been working on all sorts of different methods to answer questions, from using the experiential learning cycle to STAR. That one, if you Google how to answer an interview question, it will bring up STAR, to SAW, to all sorts of other different methods. And the one I've settled on is the one I designed myself, the one I put together, because it works well. It's born out of experience, and it's born out of your experience because you feed back to me how your interviews have gone. There's thousands of you, so it's based on a lot of experience and it works. The thing that you need to include is the how. So when you describe what you did and don't describe the how, it just sounds bland. I'll give you an example here from a real live one-to-one coaching session. So I discussed options. Right, okay, that sounds good. I went back to the team to get more ideas. I spoke with the director. I asked them for suggestions. So these all sound reasonable, don't they? But when you fail to describe how you did those things, especially when it's among a team, getting information from a team, it lacks you demonstrating the behaviours that are important in the competency and values framework. So if I dig out the competency and values framework and just go to something like, I don't know, let's just find one. Let's have a look at we take ownership, just as a random one. We look at some of the behaviours that they'll be looking for, and bear in mind that your assessors understand the CVF just as much as you do. But they've got a marking guide, and the marking guide will have been put together by clever HR people. And I say, they are clever HR people. I went back to university halfway through my career and did a master's in education where I focused on personnel evaluation systems. So I know a lot of them. I've worked with them. I've studied with them to do a master's. They are clever people. And they'll put together a marking guide for you. And it will want to know, for example, if I'm looking at We Take Ownership, how you willingly took on additional tasks to support other people, how you gave feedback to others, and how you made sure it was understandable and constructive, how you fulfilled your promises and did what you said you would do, and how you actually identified and responded to a problem. Just saying that I identified and responded to the problem isn't enough. You need to describe how you've done it. Let's go to something like emotionally aware, the one before it. I communicate in clear and simple language so I can easily be understood by others. I seek to understand the thoughts and concerns of others even when they're unable to express themselves clearly. So we need to demonstrate how we did those things. It's not enough just to say, I communicated in a clear and simple language. Someone last night in one of the group webinars preparing for the online assessment centre talked about how would they approach someone in a calm and professional way. It means nothing unless you actually explain how you've done that. So last night, in that particular webinar, we went into the intricacies of how you actually managed a team meeting to get information from them, how you managed a conversation with a difficult person, not a difficult person, a difficult situation where you had to change the style of your communication to meet the needs of another. And it all boils down to things like questioning style, the type of questions you asked. We even went into the depths of detail last night, looking at the difference between cathartic and catalytic questions and when you ask each one of those, which comes from John Heron's work around 6-category intervention analysis. But you can use all of those theories. You can use 5WH in a simple to complex way. You can use TED-PI. You can use softeners like, I'm just wondering if you could explain to me exactly what happened. Or, that's interesting. That's really interesting what you just said. I'd love to get some more information about that. So what is it that actually caused that thing that you're talking about? When I say things like that, they're carefully constructed questions. It's a 5WH question. I'm asking one question at a time. I put some TED-PI in it, and I've used a bold statement to show someone that I'm interested. Words like I'm interested, I'm just wondering. All of that comes from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, the work of John Bandler and John Grinder. See, I geek out on this stuff. So what this enables you to do is, once you've got access to all of this geek out stuff, is you can talk about how you actually constructed the conversation in a competent way, in a consciously competent way. Because a lot of the time you do things and you say things and you have meetings and you have discussions with people and you don't realize what you're doing. So you are unconsciously competent, and sometimes actually you're unconsciously incompetent. But when you start learning all of these techniques and try putting them together, at first, you don't really succeed. You come across as being consciously incompetent. But then the more we develop and the more we practice, we eventually become consciously competent. And then eventually, because we practice it so many times, it's like riding a bike, we again become unconsciously competent. I hope you followed that bit. Anyway, I explained it better in last night's webinar. Put it up on the board, put it on the whiteboard behind me, and explained it all a lot better. I'm trying to skip over it, and that's what happens. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is that you need to include detail. Detail, 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 detail. And so many of you are missing it out. And this is why it's so important, because it's the detail, it's the how that demonstrates your behaviours, and it can only mark your behaviours on the marking guide. If you just make a statement that you've done something, on the 1 to 7 scalar that they're using, which might have something like superficial to effective, very effective, they're going to mark you a 1 on superficial because you've just not given enough detail. So that's something, and I don't even ask for forgiveness because I go on and on and on about it in my one-to-ones. I go on and on and on about it in my group webinars, and for good reason, because when you articulate the how in your answer, you will score highly, but you've just got to know how to construct that answer. So if you want to find out more about the world of neuro-linguistic programming, 5WH, TED-Pi, 6CIA, and a lot more, CUDSA, all the different communication techniques that you can describe and work on and practice, so that when you actually get to your interview, you've made notes, because this is the other thing that's missing. When you describe that how, sometimes you're having to put your thinking cap on. I think, what really actually happened? It was 6 months ago. So one of the things I advocate, and I'll talk about this in another video, I talk about this a lot in my online courses, is making sure you're recording accurately the detail of interventions that you've had, where you're describing how you dealt with a challenging and difficult problem. And that is what's needed to ensure that you've got the evidence and you're not having to scratch your head thinking, when did I do something like that? Anyway, that's subject of another podcast, subject of another video. I hope you found this one interesting, and I hope it didn't get too complicated with things like 6CIA and the difference between cathartic and catalytic questions. I'd love to spend more time with you on the webinars. They happen every week. For serving officers outside of term time, they happen every week. We have a weekly practice webinar of 1 to 2 hours. For those of you who are preparing for your interview to get into the police, your final interview, every week there's a 1 to 2 hour webinar. And there's recordings of all of these available. For those of you working towards the online assessment centre, every week there are webinars and recordings of all those webinars. Everything you need to succeed in the process, right from your first application form all the way to getting promoted to inspector or superintendent. It's all there for you folks. It's what I do. I don't do anything else. I don't coach people to be flight attendants or firefighters. I don't do how to become anything else except police officer. That's what I do. And I look forward to working with you to help you realise your dreams in the future. Bye-bye for now.